Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Just to let you know that we're starting the conversation by talking about the 20% increment in transport fares. Later, we'll also be talking about sprinter buses, the spate of accidents and the role they play, and how we can nip that situation in the bud. But for now, let's talk about the 20% hike in transport fares. It's been brewing. We now have the transport unions joining us to dilate on this matter, find out what is happening. Some say they're implementing, some say they are not enforcing. What is happening and what is the way forward? How do we resolve the crisis? Joining the conversation to talk about this, we will be having David Agbuado, who is with the Concerned Drivers Association, and Godfred Abolbere, who is General Secretary of the GPRTU. They'll both join that conversation shortly. But in case you haven't heard, as of last weekend, we had that spike in transport fares. And there was a lot of talk about it. Some people were not even aware as they were hitting the road to board public transport. So here's what we're going to do. Before we start the engagement with our guests, we're going to activate the phone lines. Have you felt this entire change, the 20%? How much more do you have to pay now? And how does that rub off on you? How does that affect your finances? We'd love to know. Call that number that will be rolling on your screen, 0302-211-961 extension 2. We'll be rolling it on your screen so you can call and share with us what your thoughts are. We're starting engaging you early today, and it's all on the back of the transport fare increments. 20%. And mind you, we're in a situation where we're not seeing much of an increment, if any, when it comes to wages, public sector wages, private sector wages. So what exactly are we going to fork out the money out of to pay for these extras? Look, whether you're purchasing fuel, some are going for over 11 cedis when it comes to diesel per liter, mind you. Well, if you're paying transport fares, there's been, an incremental surge over the last how many months? It's been going on. So whether you're here or there, a private vehicle owner, or you're boarding public transport, you are going to be hit by these increments, whichever which way or however you look at it. So we'd like to hear from you, especially those of you boarding public transport. 20% increment in fares. How has that impacted you? And what are you looking forward to seeing as, an ordinary road user, someone who boards public transportation? Do call. The number is on your screen, 0302-211-691, extension 2. 0302-211-691, extension 2. We'll be getting our guests shortly to share their thoughts on this matter. But something else that has come up that feeds into the next conversation we're having, which has to do with the sprinter buses. I just saw this story in the Daily Graphic today, and I want to bring it up even as we have this conversation because it will definitely arise in the second belt. It has to do with insurance for Abubuyas. There's an interesting piece on page 10 of the Daily Graphic news paper. And they share, there is a thought shared there. This person got interactive with a number of people who drive Abubuya. Interestingly, a lot of them don't even operate with licenses. So interesting perspectives there. They don't have insurance. They don't have licenses. How do we get about this entire enterprise? Don't you forget, you can call in and share your thoughts. But let me start the conversation with Kojo Poku, energy analyst. He joins us thus far. Kojo, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining.
How are you?
I'm well.
Good morning to you and your listeners and your viewers.
Thank you so much. Let's start with this latest increment, 20% in transport fares. The transport unions will be sharing their thoughts with us shortly. But for you, from where you sit, and on the back of the conversation we had last Friday, how monumental is it that transport fares are going up by 20%?
Have they gone up by 20% or they are to go up by 20%?
Well, it's a mixture of both because from what we hear, some started implementing the 20%, others didn't. And there's a bit of a breakup when it comes to the transport unions. But one thing we're certain of is that some of them at least will hit us with 20%.
Exactly, because the reason I ask, because it's not justified. You know, some of these things, there's a process, and we keep going through this. The last time there was an increase, that was when we all saw a very big jump in the petrol prices, and they also had an increase. Since then, have we seen any major jump again? So I'll be surprised that they want to do another 20% off the back of what they did recently. You know, at times when something happens, we all support, because we felt, and I said it on your station, that there has been increase on increase on increase, and they have not done any increment. So yes, that increment was justified. But now, what is the justification for the extra 20% increase? I mean, what are you justifying this? Remember, we had this conversation as at last week and said that, look, if for anything, the real prices at the pump should come down. You understand? So for anybody to now start supposing that with an increase on 20%, it's just, for me, it's just malicious, because there's no justification for it.
You say for anyone to propose an increment of 20% in the first is malicious?
Yes, because basically what I'm saying is that they only had an increase recently. And the recent increase they had was justified based on the world market prices that have gone up for years that they have not increased. Right. My point is, from the time they increased, so now, what has changed? Nothing.
Let me ask you, though, how long ago, because I recall the last one from last year, when they actually, hold on. I recall the last one from the tail end of last year, where they actually went on some sort of strike till around mid-morning, around 10-something, and they eased it up. Flowing from there through to this year, there hasn't been a major increase, if I would put it that way. There hasn't been a major increase.
Check your records. You have your technical...
No, I'm not saying that there has not been an increase. I'm saying there hasn't been a major increase.
GPLTU, there has been an announced increase where we all agree that that increase should happen. I think in March, there was an announced increase. March or April, thereabouts. I think it's March.
So I'll work on the percentage, but again, they are pointing to the fact, and not too different from what the TUC has been calling for. They are saying that inflation is going up. Inflation is inching towards 20%. That means, no, hold on. So that means that everything, the price of everything has shot up. But of course, their commodity that they deal with is fuel. The fuel itself, look, I purchase it. What has been the difference month on month? I mean, between, let's say, February till now, it's not gone down by much. I'm still buying at a certain, I'm just shedding a fefew pesos. Even the 15 peso bit that was touted, I don't know whether I've got a 15% or 15 peso rebate at the pump. Do you get it? So that is the reality for them. And you still say it's malicious, it's not justified?
No, you're not, please, let's discuss this thing well. Ben, if they are saying there's inflation, if they are saying there's that, then in every day there's inflation. Inflation has never stopped being zero. So why is it that it's now that you're talking inflation? Let's be honest with ourselves. Has inflation been zero in Ghana? No, it hasn't. Inflation has always been in the double digits. It's only recently that it came down to single digits. Has anybody cited inflation for increasing petrol fares, lorry fares in Ghana? Nobody has ever cited inflation. So why are you citing inflation now?
Just to get me clear, I wasn't saying that they are. I'm just tying it into what the TUC has been saying.
The main determinant for increasing petrol fares is the cost of fuel. What I am saying is that in recent months, about 3 months ago or 4 months ago, there was an increase. We all supported it. Okay? GPLTU announced, and all the unions announced an increase. Now, like I said, you can check your records from the exact day this increase happened. We all supported it. Now, between that time and today, what has been the change in petrol price? That's the point. What I'm saying is that all these things that me and you and Duncan discussed last week, and I pointed it out clearly, that there is no justification for any increment this window. Because if you look at the numbers, the actual numbers, prices are supposed to go down. Now, if somebody sits there and say, oh, because of this, I want to increase, then there's always every week they should come and tell us because of this, then they should increase prices. Because at times they quote the spare parts go up or so. Sometimes they quote dollar. Sometimes they quote petrol. Sometimes they quote insurance. Taxi fares and lorry fares, they can always quote other things why they want to increase prices. But the reason is that there's a process. They have to go to the Ministry of Transport and sit with them And then when the committee that deals with that feels there's a justification, then an agreed percentage is up. You can't use your own right and say, look, I'm increasing transport fare. We all know the process. So if some have done it and some have not done it, we can't say that it's going to be done. Because there are numerous times when there have been meetings, and after the meeting, they realize that they don't have a strong case to increase fares. So let's not encourage some of these things where people can unilaterally just start and distort the system as we have it.
Do hold for me, Kojo. Let me take the thoughts as well of David Aguado, his spokesperson for the Concerned Drivers Association. Mr. Aguado, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you too, and good morning to all the listeners listening to us this morning.
Right. Curious. I'm very curious. Have your drivers increased fares by 20%?
Yes.
You have?
We have.
On the back of what? Because it appears this is not a uniform decision across the board. So on the back of what did you increase the fares?
Okay. When somebody say it's not uniform, I would say no, it is not so. It's very, very uniform. Because it is Coalition of Commercial Transport that met and come out with this decision. As I speak with you, it is not only...
You say it is a coalition for what? Just to clarify.
Coalition of Commercial Transport Operators.
Okay.
That met and took this decision last week, Friday. And we started it Saturday. As I speak with you, it still continues. We are still taking it. If you ask why warrant this, things that we are using in terms of transport now, everything has tripled. And if care is not taken, we will lose our business and we will lose our livelihood. As I speak with you, even government-owned entities like State Transport Corporation, formerly AFLAU, they were charging 39 cedis per head. As I speak with you, they are taking 51 cedis. Government-owned institutions have upped their price. So if we do it, it's not anything wrong because we want to protect our interests.
I am interested in the components that you spoke of, which have all increased, on the back of which you also want to increase. But so you're stating at this juncture that just because a government institution has changed its prices, you ought to do same? It is valid for you to do same?
This thing is very, very critical. Let me tell you something. You see, transport industry, if you didn't stand well, before you realize, if you have a fleet of cars, like 100, you can't even get one. Let me take you back. Do you know about OSA? Or have you heard about OSA before?
About what?
OSA.
Oh, yes,
bus.
yes.
Have you heard about City Express before?
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about even current one, Metro Mass?
Yeah.
Are they not fading off? But running transport is something very, very serious and very, very hectic and tedious. If you didn't stand fair, you run at loss.
But you've still not answered
That is why this Friday decision was taken.
So you've still not answered my question. You're saying that if a state transport agency can up fares or push for increments, then for you, the private groups as well, you should be able to do the same. I just want that understanding.
We are not taking cue from the state transport, but I'm using it as an example for you to see that even we commercial transport, government transport have done it. We commercial transport, we can do it.
Okay. Let's get back to the point of, you mentioned that a lot of components have changed, for which reason it justifies your increment in fares. Can you point out the different components that have changed for us?
Yeah, the components are many, but I'll mention only 4.
Right.
Spare parts have increased.
Spare parts?
Spare parts.
Okay.
The fuel itself. Lubricant.
Okay.
And then tires. Let me use only that one.
So spare parts, tires.
I'm not going to talk of dollar and other things so that you will say because dollar and that. No. Let me use the local one. The lubricant, the spare parts, the tires, and then the fuel price itself.
All right. Let's take out the fuel for now. And let's focus on spare parts, tires, and lubricants.
Okay.
Can you quantify the sort of increments they have had, for which reason they justify this upward adjustment? I mean, were you buying something for maybe 100 CDs and now on the market, usually you would get it for X price, for which reason you're saying that you simply cannot sustain your business?
Yes. Many. Let me start it from here. Let me use the most common cars that you can see on our road these days. The Benz bus that we call Sprinter buses. And then Toyota H. These two cars, I'm going to use them as an example. Sprinter bus engine was sold at, let me quote the old currency, because for this place, I normally quote the old currency, 110 million. Now it's going for 140 million. Engine.
So 110 to 140.
40.
So basically 11,000, now 14,000.
Exactly.
Okay.
When you come to launch up of the same Sprinter bus, it was going for 130 or 140, but now it's 220 and 240 respectively.
Okay.
The same car, gearbox, that was going for 1,005. Now it's 3,400.
1,005 to 3,400. That's an increment of about 1,900 CDs.
Yeah. Steer rod, back hazard, even the plates that they use to mold, when we're going to body works, we use the governance plates that we buy.
Right.
Have also rise abnormally. Formerly, it was 140, but now it's 320.
140 to 320. Right. 180 CDs on top.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I want to mention the past, let me go to the same Toyota Haze that I called for you. Toyota Haze that we normally call Toyota Fish in our circle. Toyota Fish, the engine was 9,000. As I speak with you, it's 13 and 14,000. 9,000, but now it's 13,000 and 14,000 respectively.
Okay, so it is interesting, and I'm very grateful that you've taken the time to break down some of these figures for us. Just hold for me. I want to bring in Kojo Poku, who is an energy analyst and operates in this space. Kojo, you've been listening to him. You were asking for reasons justifying another adjustment. You just heard from Mr. Agbado giving you some of those reasons. Justify it?
Ben, let me bring it to your attention. On the 23rd of February, there was a 15% increase in fares across the country. Are you aware of that? Hello?
I'm listening to you, Kojo. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to come because we had this thing where you're saying since last year there has not been any increase. I'm saying that.
Kojo, don't misquote me. I stated categorically when you made mention of that, I corrected and said that it is not that there has been no increment. I said I was referring to major increments.
So there has been 15% increase in fares in February.
Right.
Okay. Now, nobody is denying. I have a car, you have a car. We all go and buy these cars, and we know how much prices are inching up. Nobody does not want to sound insensitive. But I keep always saying, there are two sides to a coin. One side is that, look, if we do run a business and there are challenges that we face, everybody does the same thing with their business. You adjust a few things here and there and see how you can basically get by. In February, you had a 15% increase. Now, between February and now, agreed, there has been a little adjustment in the fuel prices. Now, based on what your operations are, you have to set the government, who basically, which Ministry of Transport, who mediate some of these things within the unions and ourselves, to have that conversation. You cannot unilaterally increase prices. Because if we want to keep saying things that are going up, shock absorbers and all these things, I know you know, because we buy them as well. So I'm not saying that people are not going through challenges with their businesses. All I'm saying is that let's not make it seem that there has been no increment this year, because there has been 15% increase earlier.
Okay, so valid point you're making, Kojo. Let me come back to Mr. Agbado. You've heard Kojo Poku and the concerns he shares. We're all feeling the pinch, all of us. So is it justified? Are you being fair to the ordinary Ghanaians by hiking your prices by 20% again after taking 15% in February? Hello, Mr. Agbado.
Hello, my boss.
Did you get that question?
No, sir.
All right. So I was saying, Kojo Poku says that we're all feeling the pinch. For you, private, drivers, for those in the public sector, for me, hitting the road in my own vehicle, we are all feeling the circumstances. So after taking 15% in February, why are you going ahead to hit the traveling public with another 20%? Are you not being insensitive?
No, we are not being insensitive. You see, the fuel, I don't want to use any other component so that people will be talking. This fuel is what everybody knows. The fuel is no more 799, rather 1130. So that alone tells you, if we didn't do it this way, we will run at loss. The fuel alone, no.
So are most of your vehicles running on diesel?
The commercial ones, I would say 90% of the commercial vehicles are running on diesel.
Okay,
It's only the taxi cabs that are, some are diesel, but most of them are petrol.
All right, hold for me quickly. Kojo, did you hear that point? A lot of their vehicles are running on diesel. We know that LPG prices have been sinking, but when it comes to petrol and diesel especially, some fuel pumps over 11 cedis. So that is the justification there, even when you're looking at fuel. Diesel was not at 11 in February.
No, it wasn't at 11 in February. I agree with you 100%. But the point is, we all know that these high prices are temporarily. These high prices are not going to be there for the next 2 months. I can assure you that in the next 2 months, we will not still have these high prices. The hike in fuel prices is causing the economies around the world to crash. The world economy cannot sustain the high prices that fuel and gasoline and diesel is at now. The crude oil inching up to 111 towards 120. The world economy can't sustain it. So it is something that if we base our calculation on that and go and hike, are we going to give the Ghanaian public a reduction when now 2 months down the line, fuel price comes down to, let's say, 9 cities or 8 cities? Are we going to do a reduction in prices? No, we are not. So that's what I'm saying, that within within this volatile period, let's all hold our breath a little. Go through the 2-3 month period of all we know is going on around the world. And things will normalize maybe after the second quarter.
All right. Very valid point again that you make. And I want to put that to you, Mr. Agbado. We know that when transport fares go up, they practically never come down. So Kojo Poku's reasoning is that this is not going to last for too long. We know about the diesel situation, especially on the back of what is happening between Russia and Ukraine and the challenges involved. This is not going to be a long-standing problem. So why don't you just accommodate this for about another month or two? Prices will stabilize, and then we can take it from there. Because once you push prices up, they will not come down. What do you think?
He says his part, but it's not so. Before Russia and Ukraine war, increment of fuel prices have been coming. Or is it not so?
True.
So if you are justifying with Russia and Ukraine something, I don't take it. Because even before then, things are going up. Now, even Ukraine and Russia, even this time, it's not going up like how it was formerly. Let me cite an example before we increased the lorry fare the other time. By then, Ukraine and Russia didn't start anything. We were buying fuel at 6 cities, 30-something. It rise from 6 cities to 799. Was Russia and Ukraine fighting then? So justifying our situation with Russia and Ukraine, I don't see anything behind it. I don't see any good thing behind it.
Let me ask you, you say that the Coalition of Commercial Transport Operators, is that the correct name?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. The Coalition of Commercial Transport Operators met and you decided on the 20% increment.
Yes.
Which unions form part of this group? Is the GPRTU in there?
Let me mention only 5.
All right.
GPRTU,
Right.
Concerned Drivers Association of Ghana. Ghana Committed. Protua. True Drivers Union. JAP2. Ghana National Cargo Drivers Association. Ghana National Tipper Drivers Association. Just few.
So how many are you in all? You don't have to name them, but how many are you in all?
We are 16 in number.
15.
16, 1-6.
1-6. Right.
That's it.
And how many of you agreed on this latest increment? How many of you?
The court will say unanimous.
So all of you did.
Oh.
Why then is it that we're hearing that some groups are not willing to enforce the 20%? I mean, it gives, if they did not dissent then, why are they dissenting now?
I didn't get your question.
So you say it was unanimous to
Yes.
increase by 20%. But we
Yes.
hear some unions have not increased or enforced the 20% increment. Can you explain why?
Some union, like each of the unions.
We've heard
Because
that some of them
as
haven't. That's why I was asking you about the GPRTU.
As I just said, DPRTU have increased it. Even I'm at La Paz Terminal right now. I'm not checking on concerned drivers. So I'm checking on other unions. DPRTU have increased it. Cooperative have increased it. Protua have increased it. Tiger have increased it. There's DPRT, La Paz, one terminal that I'm talking of. Everybody over here are taking it. So the unions that haven't started, it was only the Saturday, if you ask, I would say yes. It didn't go across board then because the communique doesn't reach some of the areas and then some of the regions. So from yesterday up to today, everywhere they are taking it.
Let's address a quick issue. There's also this problem with the increments. Let's say 20% is about 22 pesos. You would find that your people would roll over to the next, the closest figure, maybe 25 pesos. Some would even go to maybe 30 pesos. How are you addressing such problems? Because it causes untold hardship for ordinary people who have to board the trotro and the other public transport, the taxis and the rest, because already 20%. So it means that in effect, when you look at it, it will be more than the 20% depending on how much the person was paying before. How are you addressing these issues?
We are doing it. If it is 20 pesos, we advise our drivers to take the 20 pesos. If it is like, it is it's on 2 foots. When it is like 4 cities, 90 pesos, they'll sum it up to 5 cities. But when it is 5 cities, 10 pesos, then they bring it to 5 cities. That's how it's been done all this year.
So it is a plus or minus situation.
That's it.
But can't you find a standardized way? Because you see, the person who may have to pay 5 cedis, 10 pesos, will be plying a certain route. The other person who has to pay 4 cedis, 85 pesos, who will be charged 5 cedis, will always ply that route. It means one may gain, the other person will lose. And that's the problem. How do we standardize this to ensure that people can pay exactly what they have to?
It's because of the change. That's why it is like that. And it has been the standard, or it has been the norm. See, if 10 pesos, you lose it. In our field, it's money. But if you lose it and you will not go fighting over it. You know that because of 10 pesos, somebody's eye in our station here got damaged. 10 pesos. So you take it off and be free of those injuries.
What would it take to bring down this latest increment? What will it take?
To bring down this increment?
Yes, this latest increment. You've already started enforcing it, but what will it take to bring fares down again? I mean, maybe to what they were like before this 20% increment. What would it take?
Oh, it will be very serious something. Because even if the fuel comes back to 7 cedis, 99 pesos, will the tire price, will the battery price, will the lubricants and other things come down back to where it was? Or the spare parts come down to where it was? No. So for this thing, You see, we are very, very, very cautious of that. If you could, you could recall, drivers were saying some taxes must be scrapped off or something must be done to it. Like example, you see, recently they reduced some 4 pesos on fuel, and price stabilization was 1 CD down. Energy sector or some of the taxes were 3 CDs or 3 pesos, 1 peso and 3 pesos respectively were removed from them. You see, they can do something. You see, it's not all the taxes or the one that you are taking right will do all that you need. You have to start by, marginalizing it some way, somehow, so that it will cushion the Ghanaian public. We know that if we import, we increase transport fare even by a peso. Everything changes. For instance, the last increment, cement was sold for 440 cedis, 440. It's now 590, 580. All because we have increased transport fare. We know all these things, even tomatoes. A little like Agbelikaklo, is going for 2 cedis.
So you're telling me, Mr. Agbado, that, there was a 15 peso increment. If you're telling me that, you're telling me basically that if prices even went back to the 7 CDs, 90-something pesos or 50-something pesos, and the prices of spare parts, lubricants, and others fall to the levels they were at before, let's say in January or December, you would still be unable to do anything about this latest increment?
No.
Right. Hold on
Ben,
for me.
can I come in?
Yes, I was just about to come to you. Hold on for me, Mr. Agbado. I'll come back to you for summary comments as we wrap the conversation. But for you, Kojo.
Quickly. Wait, Ben, look, let me give this education to all your listeners and your viewers. People keep saying that prices of fuel didn't increase because of the Ukraine-Russia war when it started. Look, what you and
I think the point he was making, Kojo. I think the point he was making, just to get it.
And a lot of people make that point. Look, the Russia started sending its tanks to the borders of Ukraine in March last year. Okay, March 2021 is when Russia started sending its tanks to Ukraine border. The world market prices started agitating from that point. So if somebody thinks that prices just only went up because when they invaded, no. Prices started going up March last year. Now, you look at the trajectory, anybody can take the build-up of prices from last year till now. It will tell you that the minute Russia started moving its soldiers to the border of Ukraine, the world market prices started inching up. So it has been a gradual increase from March last year till this year. The bit where we had a big jump, okay, which was the $130 per metric ton, which is the 150,250 per metric ton for gasoline, and $130 per barrel crude oil, was when they actually did the invasion. So when the war actually started, there was a big jump. But let everybody know that the world market price was not standing still when Russia was massing its tanks at the border. So this war did not start this year. It started last year, March. So don't let anybody think that, let's not blame the Russia-Ukraine war because price has been going up. Price has been going up since last year, March. Okay? So when people use that as an analysis, it's the truth. It is not that because we don't have our own supply of crude oil. Even if we did have our own supply of crude oil, it's not enough to meet our demand. So we have to import. And when you are importing, you use the benchmark prices in the world. And if the benchmark prices in the world goes up, we don't have any option that the local prices have to go up. That's the truth. So let's not people think that, let's not use Russia-Ukraine war as an excuse. It is the fact. Without that, why would somebody sit in their house and just increase price of fuel?
Right. So 2 quick things to look at. In our economic situation, fuel prices, barring deregulation and anything related to it, fuel prices have gone up and have not come down. It is only when there are incredibly serious situations, crucial situations, that we see like government intervening and saying there's going to be a 15% window for you. which we saw in recent times. I just interacted with Mr. Agbado, and on the back of the point you made that their fares also go up and don't come down, he says once it goes up, it will not come down, no matter what changes are effected as far as the economy is concerned. How do you think we can deal with, first of all, do you think it's an appropriate stance? And secondly, how do we deal with this situation? How do we ensure that when prices of items go up, we can have the fares go up, and when they fall, we can have the fares fall?
Well, that's why I keep saying that Ghana, we have a sword that doesn't cut both ways. There is instances with petrol prices, which me and you discussed last week, where the OMCs refuse to reduce their prices when they have to. The sensitivity with which they use to increase prices is not the same sensitivity they use to decrease prices. Now, if you sit and you see that there is a slight change in dollar upward, a slight change in fuel prices upward, you quickly increase the prices. That same sensitivity with which when you see that there's a slight reduction in both factors, you also reduce. But they don't do that. And as he clearly stated, if other factors like car tires, spare parts, lubricants, everybody selling these things always want to look at their profit. Okay? So when the same circumstances, the factors they use to increase these prices come down, they refuse to basically reduce them because they want to make the windfall. That is the problem in Ghana. But I also, in a way, blame government because some of us at any point in time said that, look, the petroleum sector, the downstream, is the one single important area that government should have an eagle eye on. Because when there is little disturbance, all these things happen. But some people just don't care. You see, sometimes I think I care too much as an individual because I will try to arrange meetings. I will try to make some phone calls and say that, look, you guys should pay attention to these disturbances because if you allow these things to increase, there's no coming back. And everybody sits aloof. And these things happen. That is why I have constantly called that we should cap the margin of the OMC. Deregulation in this time should be suspended. In the UK, the business secretary, which is Mr. Honorable Kwateng, okay, has suspended the deregulation in the energy prices. He's capped energy prices for households because he realized that if you leave companies to determine the prices based on the liberalized regime, then households will not be able to afford the energy. So he's capped it. Why can't we do the same in Ghana in this extraordinary time? These are not ordinary times.
Okay. Mr. Agbado, I have two very quick questions for you. They may not fall directly under your purview, but I want to get your take on them because you may not be with us in the next conversation. So two quick ones. The Aboboya, do you have any of them who are members of any of your unions?
No.
You don't have any of them there?
No.
Are you concerned, though, as spokesperson for the Concerned Drivers Association? Reports are that quite a number of them have expired roadworthy, certificates, and of course, when it comes to insurance, that one Yamutu. Are you concerned about such a situation on the back of the accidents we've been seeing?
Yes. Even we have do something about it recent times.
Okay.
Maybe, they are now a motorist or they are into our business now. And they must ensure to have their insurance and everything fixed. Because accident doesn't have a home. That today we will blow, that today I blow, I'm coming. No. And they are mingling with us on the streets and the roads of both the cities and then the rural areas. So there must be, even if not the assemblies, the police must take as a duty, to impound them. You don't send them to court. When you arrest them, force them to do it. Because it is not with it. It's now a new thing. And even some of the riders doesn't have even a rider's license. Some of the riders of this Boboya or tricycle doesn't have license.
Right.
So this thing must be done by police, and even we, some of the association, we must take it on and then educate them to do the right thing.
Okay. The second issue, and it's a conversation that my colleague Bernice Abubeidu Lanza will be having, but again, we will not have you on that conversation. So I just want to find out from you. You mentioned when you were talking about your union and the fact that a lot of you use diesel and the rest, you mentioned sprinter buses. A lot of them seem to be involved in accidents in recent times. A lot of them are complicit when it comes to overspeeding. Are you aware of this? What are you doing about the situation?
We are aware of it. And now the Coalition of Commercial Transport, the other time we met, we said now those that are applying the long distance, we should give them logbook in which we are working on it. We haven't finished and we haven't piloted it. So I cannot say anything about it now, but we are working on it to get it done. Because the accident with sprinter buses these days, you see, because the bus itself is very slicky, very, very fast. And, you know, as useful as some of the drivers are, they use that useful exuberance and then be driving anyhow. We are talking to them too, but it's human nature. We'll keep doing it. We'll keep, advising or talking to them. So that logbook thing has been accepted and we incorporate it. I think it will minimize it.
There is a suggestion that you operate intra-city, not intercity. How do you respond to that as sprinter buses? There is a suggestion that you should be restricted. How do you feel about that?
For that one, I will not comment on it. The reason why I will not comment on it is that, you see, we don't have enough buses that will do their service. Understand? Because the high occupant buses, they are also involving in accidents. The whole thing is education and then the education and then measures that will let those things minimize.
Okay, all right. Mr. Agbado, we are very grateful that you
joined.
But
I have one quick suggestion.
Okay, what is it?
You see, we are all reading news and other things from elsewhere. We have the refinery. Whilst by then we don't have the crude. Now we have the crude, and all is being repatriated to other countries before it. Some countries doesn't have crude. Even Ghana itself, when we have the refinery, we refine for our other sister African countries. Where can't we, renegotiate and then oil refinery will start work? Even if it's not working, we are paying toll recovery daily. Let it work before we pay for it. So that's my simple suggestion, that we should do something about this thing so that we have the crude being refined here. We'll have the bitumen, we'll have so many things to, do our roads and other things. It's not only the crude, but the benefit out of it will help Ghana as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Agbado. David Agbado is spokesperson for the Concerned Drivers Association. Kojo, in some 30 seconds, your final thoughts, and we'll move on.
Well, for me, you remember in his final thought, he's saying that the government should do roads. Now, the taxes that everybody wants scrapped is what government used to do roads. Now, everybody wants to now say that government should reduce taxes. I don't know whether we've gone past that conversation. Let's holistically look at the problem. For me, like I said earlier, government seems to be just taking a back seat on this thing. We should be front and center in the pricing and the circumstances that affect it. We should do more. Government should do more to make sure that prices do not escalate the way it's going.
Okay. Thank you, Kojo. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst. And that's how we wrap this belt of the big stories. But coming up next, stay with us because we want you to share your experiences as well. As far as the sprinter buses are concerned, how do they, carry you to and fro over speeding, accidents, and should we restrict them? That conversation up next on the AM show. Stay.